Welcome to another episode of Carole Tuesday, week 16 this time. And last week we had one of the weird episodes where the whole episode was like a Teddy Perkins type side adventure when we were only going to meet this character called Desmond, who kind of imparted us with his life, wisdom, and then died at the end of the episode. So that was kind of a twist. In Carole Tuesday, the whole point of last week was that they got to meet this guy and they got to learn his story and then what he stands for, really. But in between or before that, we were making a new track with Toby, the legendary producer, and they were basically done with that and they haven't released it yet. So when they release it, let's see what happens. This week, I'm curious to see what further advancement we'll see in the Valerie Simmons plot, because she is Tuesday's mom at the end of the day, and she's going to get involved in their life somehow, I bet. So without further ado, let's get started. For those of you who don't know, South by Southwest is a music festival conducted in Austin. And actually, I think I've been to it once or twice back in the day when it was really small. But it's since become like huge. It's basically like a Lollapalooza type event at this point. Pretty much anyone who's anyone does music at South by Southwest at this point. And there's so many acts, you can't even physically see all of them. And it's extremely large. It's blown up like crazy. So for them to get a spot at South by Southwest, it's actually kind of a big deal. They have all kinds of acts there, from like tiny little indie acts to like some of the most popular acts in the industry right now. So it's not like it's an indication of that they're super popular. It's more like it's a chance for them to show people what they're all about. We already know it's this guy sending the messages. We don't even need to think about it. The show's not very good at doing twists. Every twist we've seen, we've predicted like a couple episodes before it happens. It's definitely him sending the messages, and he's going to be like, he's sending them, and because they're so creepy, he has to be there to protect her. That's like his in of getting, close to her. This is the second stalker type person we've seen in the show so far. I don't know why we're so focused on stalkers, because the first time it wasn't dealt with very well. We kind of just skimmed past it in a couple of episodes after showing some pretty creepy scenes with her and Tuesday. Is this going to be a similar vein? I would much rather have had like just a constant flood of attention that she gets be a problem more than one individual stalker, because she's number one on the Billboard charts right now. She gets out of her car to go to her house and there's no one there to meet her. Like there's no paparazzi, there are no journalists, no photographers. That seems more weird to me than having one stalker. Yeah, just a little thought. Why do we have so many stalkers? Why not have more like the burden of fame? It's not like either one of them are fresh storylines, so you can't really complain about that. She probably has my favorite voice in the show so far. I'm just kind of a sucker for these more like alto, like deep voices, women voices. I hope we get to hear her sing later in the episode. That would be great. This is the second episode in a row we've gotten some backstory for no particular reason. I get that they found this singer by the side of Toby's studio, or not even Toby's studio, just under a bridge somewhere randomly. Would have made more sense if it was Toby's studio, but it's not. They just found her on the side of the bed under a bridge randomly, like a hobo. Now Gus explains for like 5 minutes how he knows this lady and what their history was. What is the point of this sidebar would be my question. Is it just to introduce us to this new character and have her do a musical performance that is moving? That's fine, I'm fine with that, but I feel like we're treading back into those dangerous waters where they introduce a character and have them perform in the same episode, and then we just move on without even acknowledging their role in anything. They don't really do anything else after that. I feel like we're heading towards that. I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like we're heading towards that. This is cool to see that she didn't reject them, because he specifically said she wanted to strike it rich under any circumstances. And I think that it's very useful that they did this, because it allows me to illustrate a point, which is that when these kind of musicians finally get their big break, they don't really think about what is written in the contract or what terms they're agreeing to. They just sign because they've had no money up till then, and literally any money would do them some good. And they're like, okay, well, this can't be that bad. Even if they are exploiting me to some sense, at least I'm getting my end of the bargain as well. and I'm getting what I wanted out of this. But after a couple of years, they realized that they probably shouldn't have done that. It seems like this is another one of those cases. Cool of them to show us that, because that's been one of the messages that this show has been carrying forward this whole time, is that even if you are desperate, don't just randomly sign some contract. This is like musician advice 101 type of lesson from the show. Is this like a Whitney Houston figure? I'm not very familiar with the Whitney Houston history, but I know that she was extremely successful and she had some addiction issues or something. And she died, right? I'm pretty sure. Are they trying to show her like that? Because the way that she was singing, like her whole setup was very Whitney-esque. Just a thought, not really saying that she is, but it would be interesting if she was, because her voice is somewhat similar. Or alternatively, it could also be like an Aretha Franklin type. I don't think Aretha lived well into her old age, and she didn't really have any issues with this kind of stuff as far as I know. But the episode is called The Natural Woman. Maybe it's like a homage to like those old school like Motown singers, because the way that she's drawn in her hair and everything just reminds me of those old Motown singers. If you've ever seen the movie Dreamgirls with Beyonce, you know that their life wasn't all it was cracked up to be. So it feels like there's some kind of an homage to that. That could be that as well. Especially because they're showing an Atlantic record from way back in the day, so seems possible. This is what I wanted to see with Angela in the first place. I wanted to have her like end up being this kind of like having to deal with all the stuff that we see Flora dealing with. That would have been way more interesting to me than anything that she could have dealt with stalkers and stuff like that. It just seems something's missing in her narrative to do with this, but for some reason they've chosen to go with the stalker narrative for her, and they're showing us this as kind of like a cautionary tale. So it's interesting to see that they're showing this in the first place, but I would have preferred to see this, firsthand through the lens of Angela that we've been, watching this whole time, instead of just hearing about it secondhand through, the tale of Flora and whatnot. Nice. So it seems like not only are we going to get her, performance, we're also going to, see them get back together. And that's why the reason she, self-destructed was that she wanted Gus back this whole time, but she couldn't get him back because she didn't have the, the guts to stop everybody else around her and be like, hey, Gus, I need you back. Now we get to hear a musical performance and see a reunion. How great. So we have basically another sidebar episode to me. It feels like we're back to the episodic adventures, but now we've moved on from like them making progress in the musical world to like them being like a Naruto type figure with this flat character arc and them just influencing everyone around them. To me, that seems like the direction in which we have gone. I guess it's cool in some extent if they're gonna like go around meeting all these old figures that technically should inspire them, but it seems like they're inspiring the older figures in the music industry more than they are being inspired, and that seems like a strange dynamic to me. I don't know why you'd go for that. I'd rather prefer them to like make some mistake in the episode and then just meet like another figure who made that mistake and saw the road that they go down, but instead of having it ruin them, I wish that the person they met would have learned from that mistake and been able to teach them. Now, that's one way to do things. But this is also an equally valid way to do things. Like Flora, she's got so successful, but she had the wrong type of people around her. They pushed her to do the wrong things, and she was already guilty about leaving Gus behind, so she kind of self-destructed, and she ended up on the street, basically, unsuccessful, unable to sing. She can't really do music the way that she used to do, so Carole Tuesday, with their wholesome, genuine performance, inspires some kind of change in her. I'm fine with that. That's like the episode synopsis for this episode, by the way, unintentionally. They also debuted on the Hot 100 Billboard charts. They ended up number 53, while Angela's number 1. We got this vague kind of, stalker side plot with Angela, someone stalking to her house. We literally had about 30 seconds of Angela this episode. And it's not that Carole Tuesday shouldn't be about Carole Tuesday, because it's literally in the title, but still, it would be nice to see some more of the side characters that we've met along the way, just to set up a contrast between them and Carole Tuesday, because Carole and Tuesday are so wholesome at this point that we've gotten to a stage where if we don't get some kind of character change in them, I really don't see any point in watching them for 8 more episodes, because we know where they're going to end up. They're going to end up in this, Miracle of Mars, 7 minutes, saving 2 planets with 1 musical performance. And really this whole show's been about that too, to some degree. They just go around saving people with their music. That's fine. We all know that, they're very good at doing the music that's very genuine and getting to people. We can all, vibe with that to some degree. But I feel like at the end of the day, we have to see some progression in their character, like in between when Tuesday was like going to stand up for herself, or when Carole met her dad and was like, hey, now that I know I have a family, I can proceed with my life, do better things. This is the kind of character development that I like to see, but it's not like we get 0 character development. It just seems kind of odd that we're going down this path where they're kept flat and other characters change around them. I feel like if you're going to base a show around 2 characters, they should have some kind of significant change. Because think about who they were at the beginning of the show, right? Carole was this like confident, stand up for herself, skateboarding, punk type figure. Tuesday was this kind of shy, wallflower type person. How much have they really changed from that? And not that they really need to change, because they don't really have any character flaws, really. They've only ever fought once, and it was for like 5 minutes. If you're going to make a wholesome music show, this is a pretty wholesome music show. Not really any more shows more wholesome than this. But I feel like you still need some kind of interpersonal conflict, or like Carole has to be like, hey, we're going independent. We're not going to, or like Tuesday has to be like, we're going to go independent. We're not going to sign with the studio, which they did, by the way. But I would have liked to see Carole be like, this basically the Flora narrative, be like, hey, I've been poor since forever. I'd rather take this guaranteed money. Some kind of conflict. Maybe in for a couple of episodes they break up and go their own ways. For example, a good example of this being done is in the anime Bakuman, based on the manga Bakuman. They have 2 characters that are both manga creators, and in between they split up a couple times because either one person did something that the other person didn't like, or they didn't hold to a deadline that they said they were going to make, and then they just kind of informally break up. But a couple of episodes later, after they tried doing things their own way and they realized what the other person was bringing to the table, they all come back. And that's really what we're going for at the end of the day, isn't it? We want that like character growth and development. But I feel like this show isn't doing that well at that kind of stuff. If you want to see creators progress from one place to another place, watch the Bakuman anime. There's 77 episodes. It's kind of nuts, but it's worth the watch, definitely. As for episode 16 of Carole and Tuesday, I fear we're falling back into those old trends that we just escaped from. There's not really much else to say other than that. Let's hope episode 17 picks up and we enter some kind of direction in this directionless void that we've been spinning in ever since the talent show arc ended. I wanted to see them, go to bigwig meetings and be treated like the co-winners that they are, technically, but it seems we're not going to get that. So that's it for this week. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next episode.